Meanwhile, for the Democrats, both candidates are busy campaigning in New York before next week's crucial primary. And soon, Bernie Sanders is expected to announce a major endorsement from a fellow senator. A new poll shows Sanders trails Clinton by double digits in the Empire State, a state where 247 delegates are on the line.
That's right. And there's more good news for Secretary Clinton today. She won an endorsement from the New York Daily News. The paper refers to Clinton as a, quote, super prepared warrior, realist. Only New York could do that, while dismissing Sanders as unprepared for the Oval Office. For more on the Democratic race, let's be joined here in the studio by Nancy Cordes. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
Good to be with you. So she holds a 10-point lead here in New York, but are they at all worried that he's gaining on her?
Well, the polls don't show that. That was a big concern for the Clinton campaign. They saw him racking up all these wins in Wisconsin and other Midwest and Western states, and they thought, what if, New York voters start to give him a second look and say, look, this guy's a winner. Maybe I better think about him. But she has held pretty steady in the polls here in New York. And one of the reasons is because New York voters know Hillary Clinton better than just about anybody. So their opinion of her, their support for her isn't going to change that easily. He's got 1 week to turn things around. They do have a debate tomorrow night in Brooklyn. That's something that was very important to Bernie Sanders. He wanted to be able to go toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton on her home turf. He knew that that was a high-profile way to get the eyes of New York voters on him. The challenge is that he doesn't just have to make up those 10, 12, 14 points. He would actually need to beat her by 10, 12, 14 points if he's really going to make any kind of dent in her delegate lead.
And speaking, Bernie Sanders also gets an endorsement coming up later today.
That's right. His first endorsement from a fellow senator. Most Democratic senators have already gotten on the Hillary Clinton bandwagon, have been for months, but Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon is going to announce today that he is backing Bernie Sanders. He'll be appearing with him here in New York, and he has an op-ed in the New York Times this morning explaining why he's supporting Bernie Sanders. So that is sort of a nice get for Bernie Sanders, who has faced a lot of questions about why so many of his colleagues have decided to endorse Hillary Clinton instead.
Nancy, there's been a lot of drama recently in the Democratic race. Up until this point, a lot of the drama had been focused on the GOP. There's an article out in the Washington Post that says that some of the Sanders supporters are harassing superdelegates. And we talked about the upcoming debate. I wonder if this is maybe perhaps crossing the line, or if is this something that they do when things get this thin?
Well, the Sanders campaign has been quick to point out they are not the ones who are doing this, but there are superdelegates who have had their phone numbers posted online, who are getting calls from Sanders supporters saying you need to change your mind. Superdelegates, particularly in states where Sanders won overwhelmingly, where supporters, and even in some cases his campaign, is arguing, look, you need to think about changing sides. The challenge for the Sanders campaign, once again, is that they would like to see some superdelegates switch over to them, and superdelegates do have the right to do that, but they can't just pick up a couple dozen. They need to pick up hundreds of superdelegates, and it's hard to make the case that they should switch when you're still so far behind in the pledged delegate count. It would be one thing if he was really gaining on Clinton and could say, it's just a matter of time before I overtake her. You need to recognize I'm the person with momentum, but that isn't the case right now.
Along those lines, whether it's the superdelegates, whether it's people, voters here in New York before the primary, with that debate tomorrow night, what can Bernie Sanders do, or what does he need to do maybe in that debate to get something going momentum-wise here?
Well, what he's been trying to do is really call Clinton's credibility, her judgment, into question here in New York. He has really stepped up her attacks on Hillary Clinton. His campaign put out a press release point blank yesterday questioning her credibility gap. In response, the Clinton campaign said that the Sanders camp had lost its compass. Sanders had been saying for months that he really wanted to run a very positive campaign, but he knows that really his only shot at this point is to put some big dents in Clinton's reputation. Now, to be fair, she is doing the same thing to him for different reasons. She sees New York as a way to possibly push him aside once and for all with a very decisive win here, because then she can argue that his path to the nomination is virtually non-existent. So she's been going after him pretty hard as well, saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, he hasn't thought his plans through. So we've really seen a ratcheting up of the rhetoric here in New York, which should make that debate tomorrow night pretty interesting
It's going to be
viewing.
good times.
Yep.
Nancy Cordes, it's good to see you here in New York.
Good to be with you.
All right.